In Afghanistan, only 1% of rural girls are going to school. And we've seen in many parts of the world that women's education is the key to their empowerment. What is unusual about our mission is that the women are actually able to recreate centuries-old embroidery as their source of income. So it's really meaningful work that they're doing. What is really different is we're working at the grassroots from the bottom up with the women, and we're responding to what the women want to do, the work that fits the rhythm of their life, that isn't threatening to existing cultural patterns.
Rubia was founded during my ethnographic research on Afghan languages and culture. I was working with a group of Afghan women who were refugees in Pakistan escaping from the violence of the Taliban. Eventually, these women returned to their villages in Dari Nur in Nangarhar province in eastern Afghanistan, not far from the Pakistani border. That is where Rubia works today. We realized we didn't have financial resources to start something that required a lot of equipment, and that we would keep whatever we did mobile and on a small scale. And it became apparent to us very quickly that women knew how to embroider, that this was an old skill that was passed down from the hands of mothers to their daughters, and that we could improve the skills and work with their traditional patterns and patterns from different parts of Afghanistan to really create a beautiful line of work that would be a new product for the Western market. Along with the embroidery, we decided to provide basic literacy classes for the women. Literacy was a great way to train everybody to be part of this community effort. After a while, the women said, "This is great that we've got some education, let's start a school for the children." And so we started a small elementary school, which actually reached about 100 children in the neighborhood where they lived. Our commitment is not to the leaders, but to the most marginalized of women. Rubia has tried to incorporate a wide range of members of the community into its programming. For example, Ala Beam has been blind since a childhood illness. As a blind woman, she was unable to attract a husband and has lived her life totally dependent upon relatives for all her needs. Rubia has provided her with an income and a sense of purpose for the first time in her life. To the delight and wonder of the women in the community, she is able to sort and divide tangled silk threads to prepare them for the embroiderers to use. Rubia's innovative economic development, literacy, and health programs address poverty by bringing women together to talk and learn in the context of producing fine handwork. But Rubia is more than handwork production. It is a grassroots community building, education, and empowerment vehicle for Afghan women and their families. Through Rubia's multi-pronged approach, women are pulling each other out of poverty and ignorance. Handwork is one of the means to economic livelihood, but education is the goal that will transform their lives. People wonder how much money it takes for women to have a better life in Afghanistan. Income from a woman's embroidery may only add up to about $50 a month, but that $50 will buy medicines critically important to them, food for their families, transportation, and basic school supplies for their children. Having money in their own hands bolsters a woman's standing among her family and the respect among her peers. Rubia produces an exquisite product of fine handwork. We work with traditional patterns taken off of old textiles. We have used natural plant-dyed yarns for many years, and that is the center of our work. And to the extent that we continue to be able to obtain and dye naturally dyed threads, we continue to use them. That's indigo, that gives us blues, pomegranate skins that give us beautiful golds, and madder root that gives us red, which is where Rubia gets its name from, the madder root.
especially Americans like about Rubia is the signature on the back of the item, that there was actually one person, another human being, who signed this piece and who made this piece. And they can envision it's not just this war and world of terrorism out there, but there are humans who are working, who have families. There are other women who are living their lives and really struggling to survive. And they are actually making a connection with those women, helping them by purchasing their handwork. Rubia wants to reach that 80% of the women in the country of Afghanistan who are illiterate, who don't have access to health care, who don't have access to literacy and schooling. And it's the embroidery that is the hook.
Threads of Change is a new program that we're about to launch. The donations from Dining for Women will be used to support the Threads of Change curriculum. Approximately 600 girls and women will be given booklets with a set of illustrations, each bearing a different message. The simple but critically important illustrated lessons highlight hand washing, breastfeeding, immunization, voting rights, education for girls and women. The underlying idea is for women to gather together, not only to reproduce the drawings, but also to sit with a facilitator while they are embroidering these lessons and have guided discussions in a group setting about the issues that are presented in the drawings. In the process, they will need to stitch the captions in their own language, thereby reinforcing literacy alongside important life lessons. Threads of Change will be implemented initially in programs around Nangarhar province, so around Jalalabad and in Dari Nur. It may also be implemented in Farah province, we're hoping, and that would be quite an opportunity to have two very different regions of Afghanistan, one in the west near Iran and one in the east near Pakistan, implementing this program at the same time.
I think what's really unique and important about what Rubia does is they are actually addressing the needs of women in their particular community. They're not trying to create a one-size-fits-all program for all of Afghan women. Taking a grassroots approach to providing assistance and really allowing Afghans to help themselves in understanding what their capacity is, what their needs are.
Our organization was born in Afghanistan with Afghan people, and its flavor is very much Afghan worldview, Afghan flavor, respect for traditional values, for Afghan family lifestyle.
Rubia in Afghanistan is involved in coordinating and collaborating on all of our implementation decisions. We have a pro bono law firm, a pro bono accountant who have helped us to set up mechanisms for financial oversight of all transactions in Afghanistan.
They're really working within the framework and the context of Afghanistan. One of Rubia's mottos is mending Afghanistan stitch by stitch. And the reason for this motto is to really think about how the way in which any sort of help or any kind of cooperative work like Rubia is attempting to do in Afghanistan really has to happen in a slow and methodical way. And it can't be bound by or worried about what the outside politics, the outside geopolitics, if you will. But the fact that they are not seen as a threat to Afghan culture or to Islam, to the ways in which people operate their lives in this region, that actually keeps the people working on the ground for Rubia safe. They were working with this community when they were refugees in Pakistan. They were working with them under the Taliban. They worked with them throughout the early days of the U.S. Bombing of Afghanistan after 9/11. They continue to work with this community now that they're back in Dari Nur. This is the Afghanistan we don't ever get a chance to see. We don't get a chance to see how people live their everyday lives in very difficult situations, and how they laugh and joke and smile and really enjoy every last second of life in Afghanistan. And I think that's the Afghanistan that we're helping, that Rubia is really focused on helping.
Americans delight in Rubia's story of hope, and what ignites that often is our theme, "So Don't Grow." It strikes them, the contrast between the beauty of these embroidered poppies made by women in their home, and the ugliness of the opium drug trade, and the ugliness of the news of Afghanistan that they hear from the United States. It gives them a positive message of human-to-human connection between Americans and Afghans.
Rubia has a very long vision. We're there for the long haul. We don't have a time frame in which we'll be finished, and we'll continue to work with the communities we work with as long as we provide a service to them. Our commitment in helping women become educated is generational. By teaching women to read and write in their own language, it guarantees that their children will have an even greater chance at education and be the hope for the future.
Come on.